let's get started. So what we have today is a quick announcement for our challenge theme. So I'm still going to run the challenge theme. Everything is still a go. But I am not doing it unless you guys hit at least 500 votes. I know there's 100 of you out there who will watch the video, who will enjoy the video, even if you're not going to join the challenge and make art and submit it, at least vote so that I know that there is an audience out there that will receive these themes. The more people who join these themes, the more I will know that you want more of them. So a couple, 10 or 20 people wanting more of them isn't really enough for the time it takes to run these things and organize the critique hour and set them all. Sometimes I get up to 20 submissions. I want to know that there's going to be an audience that receives the themes. So please cast your vote if you are enjoying these themes. And I think I enjoy them a lot, and I feel like they provide us with some more variety in what we're discussing. Every theme is so unique. It comes with its own art lesson that we wouldn't have had if we hadn't done the theme. So please join and join Google Plus community. If you don't know where that is, just go to istebrak.com and click on the little Google Plus icon over here and just join away. And make sure you vote, make sure you read the rules. Another thing, if you enjoy these and you want to be a patron, I'm trying to get my Patreon as out there as possible. I have a goal of 1,000 patrons, and even if you just join as a watcher, it'll help support this channel. It'll help keep everything coming. Not only is it the themes that are sent out, but just weekly meets of the Tuesday and Thursday. Whatever happens, we're always going to meet on Tuesday and Thursday. Very, very sacred days for me. And so if you want to be a patron, Patreon is open. Also, for the final tier, the apprentice tier, there is a Discord lesson assignment system. It's an alternative for private tutoring if anyone is interested in that. The rewards for this month have already been sent out, but you can still get in on the Discord. And you can still get in on the Discord and join our assignment for this month. And I think that's it for announcements, other than this whole crazy ban. For those who want to know what happened, just watch the video that came before this one. It'll explain everything for you. For this piece, what's happening is there's this plastic effect that happens when you guys jump between values too quickly. So the values here and here feel like a little bit too distant from each other, and this is the exact effect we get when we're running anything, like when we're trying to paint plastic, or we're trying to create the texture of something shiny, something with a high specularity. It jumps suddenly into the highlights. It's not gradual like mattified skin. So this skin textures here and here are actually way more like skin than over here, which are way too shiny, like her face is covered in oil, which again is a representation of specularity increased all the way up. So what I'm going to do really quickly is talk about, first of all, you really don't need to write it up there. You can write it somewhere down here, nice and neat. Remember that presentation is courtesy or whatever. All right, so I'm throwing that in there. That's that. And this kind of addresses why we're seeing so much of the midtone anyway. And this has made everything make sense, hasn't it? Because when we lighten the background value, which is the light environment, we represented it as bright enough to support this kind of reflectivity and feed on the main object. Remember, light environment is three-parter. The object, the light source, and the background all play a part in what happens with the light. They are all sources of light because light is either bouncing off of them or directly sourcing from them. So when we did this, it kind of looked better. But still, in your 14-day challenge, you should try to aim for a more realistic representation of skin. Not skin in any specific setting or texture, condition, or something like that. So really the best way to get rid of this plasticky, shiny feel is to just darken the lights and lighten the darks. Write that back to me. So we have, I'm going to actually grab the background color to darken the lights, and I'm just going to go ahead and lower my opacity. And lowering all these highlights, and then I'm going to get the lighten using the background color. I'm going to get back all the dark spots, don't worry. So now that we got rid of all of these, you know, really distant, unneighboring kind of values, these values that are so distant from each other, they're not speaking the same thing. We're going to talk about what blending does and why blending is also a reason why some of your paintings or your faces look like plastic. So I'm just going to go before I did all this so I can get back the dark spots. Dark spots do have to stay dark, and the whites of the eyes and the speculars do have to stay light. So I'm going to just erase away. I just pasted the new piece here. Okay. There's a reason why I'm not blaming YouTube, because for many times I posted that figure drawing front view on YouTube and I had no problem with that. I'm not blaming YouTube's policy on nudity. They're very lenient when it comes to art and education and use for anatomy and art and education. It's the trolls that my problem with YouTube is that the channels aren't protected from trolls reporting and bots responding. So I want to be very clear that I want to stay on YouTube. I'm not interested in migrating over to Twitch because it wasn't YouTube's policy on nudity that was the problem. It was the bots. So I'm darkening the eyebrows. I'm going to the next dark spots over here. I keep on wanting to ask you guys questions because I think you guys are here. So another big problem why your values are messed up is because there's a lot of value sharing. So value sharing is what happens when you use the same value to describe completely two different kinds of elevations or depressions. Just darkening the upper lip. Right over here. I'm also going to get the soft brush and darken the lower half. Remember that beard shadow? Just over here. But I'm still going to darken the chin as well because the chin is far away from the forehead and the forehead gets the most exposure. And then before I start blending, actually, I'm just going to merge down. I'm going to go into liquefy and correct your gaze. I've done so many 14-day challenge critiques. I'm surprised not a lot of you know what to do when it comes to the gaze. I think every single time I've covered the gaze. And for those who aren't getting a thorough enough critique or are getting critiques but you don't feel like you got kind of like the Istebrak touch in the critique, you can go to the critique hours and you can search in my video history for 14-day challenge. And you can find other challengers. Most of the time, all of the issues other challengers have are issues that you have as well. We're all pretty similar in the way we're interpreting 3 dimensions through our 2-dimensional limited mind. So it's not that unique. You guys aren't islands in your issues. So don't assume there's some sort of uniqueness in the way you've made the mistake. It's very rare I find an unfixable error, especially with private tutoring. Everyone always makes the same mistake. So just go over to those critiques and I know you're going to find something you also find in your work. Alright, so I'm fixing the gaze so it looks a little less derpy, more focused. Derpy is that effect when you're completely spaced out. You probably, when it comes to portraiture, it's the only time you're allowed, even though it's not always a nice thing, it's you're allowed to have the character stare straight at the viewer. But in illustration, don't do that, because in illustration you're breaking the fourth wall when you do that. Don't do that. It's just creepy. It feels weird. It's like a character in the movie staring straight at you. You notice instantly. For portraits, you're allowed to do this because you're studying the focus and it's just a study, especially a 14-day challenge. But for portraits, sometimes full-on masterpieces, you can have them look at the viewer. It's just part of the meeting process. When you meet someone, you share a gaze, and that's why you kind of want the eyes to be focused. So, what about the blending has caused this plasticky feel? Well, it's the sudden change between values all around the face. So what we have over here is I need to bring back some of the bright spots for other places. The cheekbones aren't the only bright spots on the on the face other than the nose. And I'm just adding this little milk mustache, as I used to call it, over here and over here. I'm also going to grab this mid-tone color and correct the value sharing on the side of the nose. If you don't know what value sharing is, I have so many videos on this subject. So please go and do a video history search. Just write value sharing as the keyword. One of my mods, amazing mod, made an index of all the videos I've ever posted up. And all you have to do is look for keywords. So I'm going to be linking that in the community. I'm going to actually have him post it up. If you're hearing this, Tom, you can feel free to do it. I haven't contacted you yet about it, but I do want to get that out there as soon as possible so you guys can do some index searches, and it takes you to the exact timestamp of the video where I have mentioned that topic. So you can search up the term value sharing and it'll take you straight to the video where I say that. The index is miles long. So it's going to be really, really great way to kind of like find what you're looking for quickly if you don't want to do the video history search. I have some of the best mods on YouTube, and I'm very, very proud to say that they're my mods. Okay, and this was all just his work. It wasn't commissioned or anything. He just volunteered his services like this for the channel. The best. Okay, so I'm just creating an edge here on the side of the nose. As you can see, I'm using very neighboring values. I'm not using any shadow color. So this is another thing that you did. You're using shadow values here all around areas where there should just be light. And this is another symptom of value sharing. You also put the bounce light on either side of the face ahead of the primary. So you're having some major problems that are fixed with what? Form studies. You need to start focusing more on the immediate response to the light on the object, to the primary light. That immediate response of core shadow, what the midtones do in relation to the primary, what the shadows do in relation to the primary. What you're doing is what the shadows are doing in relation to the primary and the secondary. You don't worry about the secondary if you haven't established a good a value relationship and a value language with your primary light source. And this is what's happening over here. I don't know what reference you used. You could have used a reference that threw you off. You're not advanced enough to read the reference. This could have happened. And I don't recommend using references that have more than one light source or have completely edited, over kind of exposed fashion photography or editorial photography, something like that. So right over here, I'm grabbing that mid-tone and darkening just one more time to get rid of any more plastic effect. And I'm going to start blending in a second, but not before I establish areas that are shiny. So the nose is actually pretty shiny. Right over here. And I'm just throwing some of that highlight over here on the top of the forehead to represent that it's the highest point. Just a little bit on the lips. Touch on the chin, but I'm mostly going to just represent that cast shadow of the lower lip on the chin, which is right over here. Okay, and we're starting to see a little bit more of like a mattified skin type. I'm going to raise my strength. I was at 1%, which is a great effect if you want to create that like haze. But I'm just going to raise it to 15% on my smudge tool on my number 4 scatter brush. And that should give us a good strength to blend with. I recommend this for skin all the way because skin is a combination of shiny and mattified and like pliable and just very plushy, but it's more leaning towards matte than it leans towards shiny. So remember that skin isn't primarily shiny. It's tiny little hairs covered in like a peach fuzz kind of like surface texture. So I'm blending around the eyebrows right now to create that peach fuzzy kind of hair grows gradually, not suddenly in military formation type. And that's what's going to give us that believable skin texture. And observe how, excuse me, none of this has to do with color. This is all value. So if you find that your pictures or paintings or portraits look very plasticky, it's because of the value levels. So go right back to your values and correct what happened. And forget about color if you're finding that you have this plasticky skin type symptom. You need to start using more neighboring values, and you need to blend more. And think about your primary light source. 3 reasons why you guys might have plastic type textures in the face. Another big problem here is this excessive kind of representation of the shadows down here, which I actually allowed and erased back, but I'm just going to use a thicker smudging brush and a heavier press. And this is because there's a lot of fat here in the lower cheek area, and we're allowed to have wider gradients where there are fat pockets. We preserve geometries where there is bone. And I'm blending away at the secondary light source. It isn't that important right now. Okay, you're using some kind of outline over here. I'm really not sure what reference you used, but just don't go back to it. Okay. So I'm going to show you real quick using Portrait Studio the difference between what happens with skin that is mattified. I'm not even sure if that's the right term, honestly, and when we raise opacity and reflectivity up. So I'm just waiting for Portrait Studio to load. I'm not sure if there was an update recently. I think there was. And it's done. Okay. So I'm just going to go into the lighting section and raise the background color for a second. Backdrop color goes up just a touch. And then I'm going to enhance lighting as enabled. And I'm going to turn on, it's on ultra. Okay, and then I am going to increase the strength of this nearby lighting here. And I'm not sure where it is. I think it's over here. So the specular color, the diffuse color. So this is what happens when we have that shiny effect. The lighter I go, the more it feels like it's plastic, like it's reflecting the nearby environment. And when we turn on the, where is that environmental lighting? I think I have to disable the main light. I'm not sure how to run this just yet. This is a new feature that I haven't memorized yet, but this is typically what I'm talking about when we do this kind of specular color needs to go. When we do this kind of stuff right here, when we cause too much of a jump, suddenly out of nowhere the value goes up. So it's mostly visible around the chest because the face right now is reflecting the nearby floor. And so you guys have all of this enabled, and really what you should be having is this smoothness brought down all the way. So I'm not sure. Oh, because of the color right now that she has is reflecting the environmental lighting. So it's going to keep reflecting different colors here. And what I have to do is something else in order to correct that. But here we go. So this is what you guys are doing right here, between here and here. And if you guys are right here with your values, they should be moving down here all the way. So the model library, another great way to see this is on the older faces. So I'm going to, just so you can see the wrinkles, again, just raising that shininess all the way up. And raising this specular color, or the specular color And this is typically what you guys are doing when you're creating this sudden jump in your values. So if we have a image like this where I really had to bring down those values, no highlights yet, everything is nice and matte, background value is very balanced with the object, we go backward. We can see you had that exact effect, that effect of when I raised the specularity on the models in Portrait Studio. And it was like this, and you got away with it because the background was dark and it was still shiny, like dark leather in a dark room. I don't know why I thought of that combination, but yeah, this is where skin is supposed to be. Your values are still supposed to be very balanced and very close to each other. Even if we had our previous color, let's take a look. It still feels very normal. It doesn't feel, I mean, obviously the background isn't light enough to explain why all this is happening on the face, but if she was glowing, that'd be different. If we had a fuse, like a not a fuse, like a glow in outside her head to explain why she's so visible in this dark room. But enough of this plastic effect. Stop using it. It really doesn't allow you to explore a believable skin texture and use it universally. I mean, you're always going to end up using this crutch and depending on it. Next thing I'm going to do is establish that beard shadow using the darken mode over here. It's very much a beard. If you start seeing a beard, you're doing it right, but make sure it's not a total beard. And I'm also going to do something else. I'm going to lighten all of these excessive shadows you have here at the top. These shouldn't be here. Why? Because the head is based off the geometric anatomy of a sphere. The common denominator shape that came before we saw a head, which was a big ball. And a ball in space is a ball that has shadows receding away from the light source towards its lower hemisphere, right over here. And that means darker shadows pull towards the bottom of the shape, aiming away from the light source that is coming from top down, which is the standard for 14-day challenge. It's very, very important that you remember exactly which kind of lighting is expected out of you for this challenge. You really will be lost without referencing your light source. It's like a person sailing the seas without having a compass or having no stars to reference. It's impossible for you to paint without remembering where your light source is. Okay, now I'm just blending away this excessive highlight around the eyebrows. I'm just getting rid of it. Excuse me, my voice is kind of really weak today. And I'm just raising some of this and getting rid of some of that secondary light source. And I hope this has kind of helped you a little bit more. You can feel free to add contrast as you get better. I delay contrast for students because they're not experienced enough with contrast yet for me to trust them to know what to do with it. What I say is learn how to blend, learn your geometric anatomy, all with safe neighboring values, and worry about contrast another day. But if you feel like you're at a point where you understand all of this pretty straightforward stuff, then you can start adding some contrast, and that would be doing something like raising the background value like this, and then selecting inverse, and then lowering the values like this. You can also raise the highlights if you'd like. So this is adding contrast, making the background lighter and making the object more visible. Okay, so if you feel ready to add this kind of contrast, keep all these corrections in mind for your next day. Completely remove this excessive shine. It looks like a robot, like an android, like what I showed you in Portrait Studio, and it does not feel accurate at all. There are some other areas here that could use some true shine because they are wet, but you applied it in a way where it was wetness all around the face, and that didn't make any sense at all. So there are areas here like this. A couple of shine here, speckles or whatever on the cheekbone, some minor little dots on the forehead, just to show some of that dewiness the skin is capable of. It is oily. It's not completely matte. And I'm just blending away with the eyebrows. For your form problem, I feel like, again, I told you guys before, I look to the eye sockets to see the level of an artist. Right now, the eye sockets have almost no description. You don't have any radial shading around the eye sockets over here. So if you don't know what that is, you can, again, Google search, video history search my radial shading techniques, and I usually explain what happens around the eyes. You can also look up an eye tutorial that I did, and in there I also explain the eye socket thing. So like that crease eye socket line right over here. So for this piece, it's really just measurement issues. It looks like a very strong style, but I don't feel like it's a style that you intended. I feel like it's a style that is accidental, something that you came upon. First and foremost, please make sure you have a vertical canvas for your submission, and make sure you have enough space on all poles of the canvas for the object. That's nice breathing space around here. Then it's very appealing. It's a very cute person. I love this style. And I'm not sure how you in your journey are going to address all of the things that are kind of making it difficult to access the character. Me as the audience member, I'm finding it very beautiful. I like the kind of spaced out look in the eyes, but this is just one face. So if you're prepared to study only this one face for your challenge, feel free to keep this face as it is. And just perfect your shading, find other ways to make the face look realistic, look up references, try to find a face in real life that has this exact, kind of face, and work from there. But right now, what you've done with the lips, what you've done with the nose, they're all beautiful on their own. It just feels like the scale is just a little bit off with all of them. What I'm trying to do here very badly is try to balance all the scales while keeping the same character intact. I'm probably going to flip the canvas as well and get you to see what I mean. So I kind of ruined the lips as well just now. So I lengthened the face to add some age. And now I'm getting this is obviously a boy. This is a boy to me because of the thickness of the neck and the flatness of the eyebrows. The downturned outer corners, I feel like they're downturned. I'm not sure if I took away from that. And just the general type of expression. No eyebrow arc is a very, very big giveaway. Even if that's not what you intended, this is what you use. These are the accidental tools you used. Remember, intention has nothing to do with it if you accidentally use the tool. I mean, the tool is there whether or not you understand it, and you might accidentally use it. So you use these kinds of facial features here to create a very adolescent-looking face, but you had very, very mature expressions to the eyes. That squint, that distant look, all very advanced kind of emotion on a very large head, which felt very infantile. And the eyebrows and the signatures, the beauty signatures that you used there also feel very masculine. Lower down the just like that, tucking in the cheekbones. So it's a very difficult thing to critique when you have a style that's working. And I don't approve of style. I never do, especially for students growing. So I feel like this is an accidental thing. I feel like you do have a style in development. Sometimes these things happen, and students are way, way early into their style development. They actually do develop something very nice. without even having to think about it. Nothing universal, something very unique to them, which I always like to feed whenever I can. If it's private tutoring and I'm really close to the student and I can kind of talk them through every single day. But this being the only critique you get that responds to your style issue, not that the style is an issue, but the general style question. I feel like I shouldn't be promoting you to pursue this style, but I feel like no matter what I say, it'll still be there, kind of in the way you interpret faces and all of that. You'll still have this pull to paint eyes like this. Okay, after this, I'm just going to be adjusting the neck so it feels a little more realistic. So before, do you see what I mean with that adolescence? And if it was a girl, this would work, but you had a baby head. This would be a baby's head. And this whole thing right here, this whole face felt like it was being enlarged from the center. I'm not really sure how I'm going to correct this. I think I can only do this like this. Like it felt like the whole face was being enlarged from the center point. And when I do this, it feels corrected. See that? Like everything is centered back instead of enlarged or bloated. And because of that, now the eyes are a little bit long, so I'm just going to tuck that in all the sides over there. Oops. Tuck, 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 tuck. Though I feel this is perfectly functional for our class style, you know, working offline like this, still feels very, very wrong. I don't feel like I'm teaching a class. I feel like I'm just making some boring tutorial on YouTube. Okay. This person's expression right now is my face exactly. These past 48 hours of grief. Correcting the lips. And I feel like we're adding more of a believable, approachable proportion to the scale. But as you see, I didn't paint away the eyes. I haven't painted away what's going on here with the eyes. I feel like everything is still pretty balanced and the style is still intact. And I'm just going to raise the face up here. Again, this is just my interpretation of what you did with the gender. Not really sure where you were taking it. It felt very, very random. I haven't read your description, so that probably might help. And then I'm going to just adjust the neck over here. So if you guys are still watching, please make sure that if you have time and you have a Twitter account, go ahead and tweet at YouTube at YT Creators. You just tweet them discussing my channel and what's happened and how live stream is vital for this the function of my channel and for the style, the conference and demonstration, like the demo style of my channel. I need live stream to work. I feel comfortable here, and that by the time I hit 100 subscribers, I don't know when I'm going to, but they will assign me an agent type of person that I can discuss things with directly. And then I can probably have someone that isn't a robot who will respond and help us. But until then, which is 20,000 subscribers away, and I'm not going to try to get them in the cheap way. Oh, I'm giving away the most expensive thing. You just subscribe and get 5 people to subscribe and comment. I'll probably hit there in no time. If I showed my face, a lot of my friends agree with this, I would probably get my subscribers right away. But that is cheap to me. I know I'm a girl. I know I'm a very normal looking kind of, I don't know, I'm not saying I'm attractive, but I'm a girl. That's all it takes nowadays. And I would get the viewers. I would get the subscribers and the return guests. But I never, ever want to use myself that way. That's disgusting. I feel it's cheap. I feel it's just a you know, a garbage way. I want my intelligence to introduce me, not my body type or my eyes or whatever other features I have, or you know, my face style or whatever. That all feels very, very wrong. So I'm just adding some highlights here on the side, and then selecting the inverse and adjusting the total background color. Selecting inverse, my bad. And then adjusting the background color. I feel like the face is in an acceptable position right now for some more continued rendering. I feel like some of the features you have here are a little bit out of sort of under rendered compared to others, so you need to catch up your nose and your lips with the rest of the rendering. You have wonderful eyelids, you have all this stuff intact, but I feel like the nose is really, really, really lacking. Really symbolic right now. It's not the best you can do, I don't think, as compared to what I'm seeing you do with the eyes. You have a lot of value sharing just around here. Alright, just adding a little separation between the cheekbones over here. Still could be male or female. And we'll see the before and after, and this is a perfect alternative for the kind of, you know, what you were doing before. It's still very stylized. It's still a very specific kind of face. I still feel the same looking at it, but I don't feel that disconnection between my proportions and what you drew, which were very, very intense. So before, after. I'm just going to, actually, never mind, I lost it. I'm just gonna, here, let me see if I can make it so the before and after is more accurate. And then unlock. And just try to give you that space that we had before. Just trying to change the size so it's more close to what we did, and the before and after is more successful. So before, before, after. This is more acceptable proportion and scale wise. Before it was a little bit stretched, very forced. So I mean, it looks like that Big Eyes artist, which I said is a style problem. It's a style thing that I feel like style is like a wizard trying magic that's way beyond his level, and one day that magic will turn back and bite him in the butt, and he'll turn into a half lizard, half blender type. So that's kind of what happens when you mess around with style. It's so outside of your range that you won't know what to do with it. It's unyielding, it's unwieldy, it's crazy, and it should not be tampered with. I'm on 1% tolerance with my magic brush, whatever it's called, the magic wand, and I'm still not getting a decent lasso in the background. This is because your value is way too close to the value of the skin tone. You have so much white on her face, but the background is still way too similar. You use the exact almost shadow color of the outskirts shadow colors here for the background, which is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Okay. And then we've got all of this. So I'm just trying to lasso with the lasso of truth. Okay. And I'm just going to lighten the background. This is how light your background should have been. All the other issues I feel like I can pick up from the other paintings I did today, but of all the faces we saw today, this is very well rendered. The skin is great, the proportions are great. So it's a combination of all the changes I made previously, but your background color has to change. I think the neck thickness is really, really great. Where you are right now is wonderful, but the nose is still very, very symbolic. The nose should be a little bit more open, more structured. The septum shouldn't be that thick. Again, we're trying to build, or we're not trying to appeal to every person's face. Some people just have a thick septum. But we're trying to have a more believable, universal, and beautiful face to use when we need it. So thinning the septum out like this, see that? Really, really change the nose, and then just getting rid of that lower wing. The nostril doesn't go all the way around. It stops at the cheek. Stop making it go all the way around, you guys. Isn't that what it does? Okay. And the shadow of the nose is a little bit, the nostril that's coming out here is too big. It's too dark. Okay, so get on some radial shading around the nostrils. Just something like this. Where it is darkest only on the insides. And that will really help you kind of get a more just like realistic transition of values. And there is always the necessary edge work on the outsides of the nose. So depending on how you did it, well, you did it with light value and the nostril is dark. So that's really important right here, what we just did, and then we just blend away. Okay, so let's take a look at the before and after. Before, see the nose? Completely on a different level compared to the rest of the face. I think the face is too big for the head. I think you need to shrink the head just a little bit. I mean the face, not the head. The head is fine, the face is too much. It's taking a lot of space. And that's really it for today, you guys. Thank you everyone for supporting and for messaging when you needed to, and answering the call of the channel. Thank you to everyone who's just sent out messages directly to me and wondering how I'm doing or how I'm dealing with all this, and they wishing me the best and wishing me patience. That really means the world when you guys do that, and I read every single one. Don't ever think that a single comment has reached deaf ears. Every single comment has been heard, and I can't thank you guys enough for mobilizing and texting and tweeting and doing whatever you had to do. Thank you to all those people who made Twitter accounts. Thank you to all those who revived their Twitter accounts and went through that annoying password recovery. I know it's just, you didn't have to, but you did it, and I can't thank you enough. So before, after, you see that? The face was too big for the head. And then before, after. Again, just like I did with the other one, you can use more contrast if you feel like you'll, use it responsibly. So darkening values and lightening them according. I don't think you need to go any darker on the face, but the background might be able to go a little bit lighter. So for anyone who wants to join our critique hour, there are no live streams right now. But you can still join the community. I'm still going to pick stuff every Tuesday and Thursday from the community. I don't know if my spirit is going to hold. I really don't know what to tell you. I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try to keep doing it this way until something happens, until they lift the strike. Hopefully someone responds to me as soon as possible. I constantly check my email for responses or anything like that. And nothing so far. So make sure you vote for this. I want to see 500 votes at least before I release the resource pack. Ancient Bow is winning. I actually made a vote here. I changed this. Why does it keep changing? So make sure that you are going for this and doing it like I told you early. Okay, and if you want to join Patreon, just go to patreon.com/Istebrak and become a patron. Even if it's just as a watcher, you're still ensuring the longevity, I guess, the longitude. You're still ensuring the longevity of the channel, and hopefully I don't lose my spirit. I still keep doing this offline version. I don't like it. I'm not happy. It's not ideal, but it's still functioning. And that's the point, that we're getting out a lot of art, and we're still talking, and the dialogue is still happening. I miss you guys. It's been very lonely without you guys. And I miss seeing my mods telling people to be quiet. I don't know why I missed it. It's only been one session. But the idea of projecting this on a 3-month basis, if I'm missing for 3 months, I don't even know if I'm going to have the spirit to come back after 3 months of censorship for a channel that absolutely doesn't deserve it. So if you can, please do tweet on Twitter, tweet YouTube, YT creators, YouTube team, and just describe what's happened, that the censorship was not justified. Nothing of that nature happened on our video, and it was begrudged users who I banned from my channel that reported me on false accusations of community, on false community, what is it called, guideline violation. So that did not happen. We were searching up art references on Google. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys on Thursday maybe. Have a great day, everyone.